Hello and welcome. In this video I will try to demonstrate how you can add a zoom lens to a very cheap Chinese 4K sports camera. It is 4K of course only on the box, and I only got it because it's very cheap and very simple to modify. So let's get it out of the box and out of the protective shell, which will be useless once we add the way bigger zoom lens. As you can see, the camera is quite flimsy, and taking out the battery is quite disappointing. It's like it was hollow. Okay, this is the lens that I will be adding to the camera, and let's just rip it apart into pieces. As you can see, it's just a matter of prying the front down and trying to twist the optics down, but it is glued in. So let's take the screws off. Well, as you can see, one is missing out of the factory, and even if I try to shake it out of it, it's not there. Cost saving at a maximum. Removing the front panel is pretty straightforward, except for the ribbon cable in the middle, which will have to be removed. But first let me just take this mod button off, because I've heard that those wires are very easy to snap. So taking the ribbon cable out, that's a bit tricky, and putting that aside with the LCD. Okay, the back cover and the board is missing another screw, but let's move on. This one has no screws at all, it's just glued in there, and the lens is glued straight into the socket. Trying to remove it with the screwdriver is tricky, but at least I didn't drive the screwdriver into my thumb, and that's a bonus. You can see the sensor in there, and you can see that this lens has a tiny little is quite unpleasant. Fortunately, I have the IR filter built in the new optics, so I will just try to screw this one on to check if the threads match, and yes, it is a match. However, yeah, it will just not fit straight in. I will have to do a tiny bit of modification on the case. Let's snap the LCD out now that I can see how it's attached. It is, of course, glued in and snapped in as well, so reassembling the camera is just the same as otherwise, so let's see how it works now. As you can see, or you cannot, the depth of field is a bit off and the zoom tends to wander off, so I will have to add a couple of spacers in the lens to make sure that it doesn't just unwind when I'm trying to focus. But first, let's just try to fix that sensor, which seems to be just wandering off without the missing screws. So I'm trying strong glue right now, and wait for it to dry. Well, trying to compress it with this mini vise resulted in a fairly stable socket, but I still feel that the foam that was originally there is a bit wobbly. Let's reassemble the things, but first I just remove a bit of material and get the washers for the lens. So now the cover lens fits my new zoom lens, and also the two washers will keep the lens far away from the sensor, so the focal length fits the expected one. I kind of eyeballed it, and these two washers seem to be thick enough. Once they are in that way, the zoom lens will be able to sit tightly in the socket, and the focus can be pulled, which is, well, quite important for a zoom lens, really. If I had a 3D printer, probably print a nice spacer, but as I don't, I just grabbed two fitting washers from my basement and rolled it on. But it seems to hold on pretty well, except I just have to remove this foamy stuff that was the original fix for the sensor array and just glue it back on straight on the board while the glue dries. Why did I do this? The whole thing is because I need a camera to record a B-roll footage. For that I need something that just stays there, which can set the focus, and costs about half than the microscope I'm using to record this one, but still has a decent camera sensor. So the glue is almost dried. Again, let's just put the sensor back in place and try to push on it as hard as possible so it doesn't move anywhere. Now that's done, so I can reassemble the camera, put everything back in the housing, and try not forgetting any of the screws, as there are already a couple missing straight out of the factory. Putting on the new zoom lens is just a matter of screwing until the washers meet up and it's firmly set in place. It looks pretty nice, as if it was made for this. The lens moves, and when I'm plugging it in, the other way around. Oh, do I hate micro USB. It turns on and I can sharpen the image to my liking. So this is the finished product. And it's time to peel the LCD. Wow. Time for testing. Original lens, zoom lens, unzoomed, and zoomed version. And record without the new lens. Moving it around a bit. It doesn't have any stabilizers, and trying to zoom with it. Turns out the magnification is even more than I expected, and I will have to get a smaller lens. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and see you in the next video.